If it isn't clear yet, I love breakfast. Eggs of all kinds, toast and jelly, biscuits and gravy, bacon and sausage, pancakes and French toast and waffles, orange juice and coffee. When our oldest son, Simon, was a toddler, he would wake up really early, and together we would go to what he called the egg place as a 2-year-old. It was the Perkins restaurant in our town. We'd get there about 6:30 in the morning on Fridays, and we'd share breakfast together. And then y'all have heard me talk before about our youngest, Ruth. When she was little, she had this same habit of waking up very early, and we would stroll the neighborhood and end up down at Scratch Biscuit in Grandin Village for breakfast. Later, we would go to Waffle House together and share the All-Star Special. Nobody needs to eat the entire All-Star Special at Waffle House. Breakfast, they say, is the most important meal of the day. Now, that comes from Adele Davis in the 1960s as health advice to try to combat America's obesity problem, popularizing the term, eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. Science since that time has proven that that is not true at all, because if you eat biscuits and gravy for breakfast every day, that's not actually a very healthy lifestyle. But there is evidence that shows that people who do eat breakfast every day tend to be people who pay attention to what they're eating throughout the day. They tend to exercise with regularity, and they manage stress well. But unfortunately, just beginning to eat breakfast doesn't cause all those other things to happen. It's a correlation, right? Not a causation. I love breakfast because it's the meal of possibility. It gives you fuel for the day's activities ahead. Nothing has happened yet, so over breakfast, you can imagine what might happen throughout the course of the day. The meal of possibility. Lunch, I often find, is rushed. You're in the middle of something, you've got to take a break, eat lunch, you got to jump back in. Sometimes you cram it in at your desk. Sometimes you even use the lunch hour to meet with somebody about something else related to your work. And dinner can be lovely, but often it comes after an exhausting day, and now you have to cook something. And then after it's over, you reflect on what actually happened as opposed to what you had hoped it would happen at the beginning of the day. And then you have all those dishes to clean up as the sun is setting. I like breakfast. It's the meal of possibility. These last 2 weeks in our series at the lake, we're taking one Bible story and we're dividing it into 2 parts. And today we're going to focus on the importance of breakfast, the meal that Jesus shares with his disciples, the most important meal of the day, though not for the reasons that Adele Davis gave us 60 years ago. This lakeside story here comes after Jesus' death and his resurrection. So Jesus has already appeared, risen from the dead, to Mary Magdalene in the garden. He's appeared to the 10 disciples in the locked room minus Thomas. He's then appeared to the 10 disciples plus Thomas in that same room. He's commissioned them. He has sent them out to be his disciples. But when we meet them in this story, the disciples are not out forgiving sins. They are not out there sharing the gospel of God. We find that they're going fishing, back to the life they had before they ever knew Jesus. This leads us to ask some questions. Are they disobeying what Jesus commanded? Are they just trying to feed themselves because they're hungry? We don't really know. What we do know is that they're out there and they've fished all night and they've caught nothing. And as the sun begins to rise, that time when the sky goes from black to gray to the beginning of color, they see Jesus on the beach. And you heard what he said. They throw their nets on the other side of the boat. They catch this haul of fish so large it almost sinks the boat. They realize it's the Lord. And Peter, true to form, jumps out of the boat, because Peter loves to jump out of the boat to Jesus, and leaves the rest of the disciples to haul in the boat with the big catch of fish. And we're left wondering, what's going to happen when they get to the shore? Is Jesus going to rebuke them because they've disobeyed his command to go and make disciples? Is he going to offer them more instructions and directions about how specifically to do this? Or maybe some of them are hoping he's going to promise, like, never mind, I'm not actually leaving you. I'm going to stay with you in this physical form as we make this journey of discipleship together. But what actually happens is they come upon this charcoal fire. We're going to talk more about that fire next week. on that fire is some fish, and then there's some bread. And Jesus says the most curious thing to them. He says, come and have breakfast. No rebuke, no instructions, no new promises. Breakfast, the meal of possibility. I think there's something here for us to pay attention to. How many times in your life have you had to deal with the kind of disappointment that the disciples are dealing with as they come through the long, sleepless night and pull their nets up empty, disappointed? You're in this time when you feel like everything is collapsing around you. Your life is falling apart. Nothing is going right. You don't know if you can hang on any longer. Is what you need in that moment ridicule and shame for your failures? Is what you need advice from somebody about how you ought to be doing better, or somebody who says, well, I told you so? Or maybe instead it's somebody who welcomes you in, who sets the table, who pulls out a seat, who passes you the biscuits and the shrimp and grits, breakfast, and you start full of possibility, no words necessary. Or flip the script. Maybe you've taken on someone as a mentor in your life, taken them under your wing, nurtured their skills and their gifts, and the time has come for that person to take on the full responsibility of their role or their position, or if you're a parent, as an adult. But you know that this person is still worried and fearful and will want to stay tethered to you. So as long as you're going to keep giving words of advice, they're going to keep drinking them in and sucking them up and going with that advice instead of trusting what they've gained. So maybe instead of inspiring speeches about neither a borrower nor a lender be, or to thine own self be true, what they actually need to hear is the sizzle of sausage in the skillet and the thud of pancakes on the plate. Fuel up and be on your way. You can do it. In the first church I served in eastern Tennessee, there was this organization that worked in the summer called Appalachian Outreach. Every year, youth groups, 6th through 12th graders from around the region, would come to our town to help with home repairs, roof leaks and wheelchair ramps for people in poverty living in the mountains around where we were. Our church signed up to provide meals for these youth groups for 1 week every summer, 2 meals a day, breakfast and dinner, Monday through Friday. Joanne was in charge of the kitchen. And every year, we fought the battle of how many electric skillets can fit on one circuit. The answer is 1. And so we always blew the circuits every year, had to reposition the skillets. We renovated that kitchen. We had to add an electrical panel to accommodate Joanne's plans for breakfast for the Appalachian Outreach Week. Every day, scrambled eggs, real scrambled eggs, Kraken shells, okay? Sausage, pancakes, yogurt, fresh fruit, parfaits, granola, bagels, and cream cheese, oatmeal for 80 people, Monday through Friday of that week. You had to get to the church by 6 a.m. to prep that meal, and Joanne was usually already there, having swung by the Swaggerty farm for more sausage patties on her way into the church. We called her the General, and everybody obeyed Joanne's instructions around the kitchen. The youth, the 12 to 18-year-olds, they would wander in about 7:30, sleepy-eyed from the night before. Many of them would lay their heads down on the tables in the fellowship hall until it was time to pray and come meander through the line for what they wanted to eat. Some of them making the strange decision to select Fruit Loops out of all the options available, but Fruit Loops were available. Sometimes Joanne got flack for these efforts. This is too extravagant, it's too expensive, it's too time-consuming. It asks too much of the congregation members to come here this early, this many days in a row. And she would look with this absolute face of incomprehension. To her, these teenagers were giving a week of their summer to go to a place they otherwise would never go, to follow the mission of the risen Christ, and to be the representatives of God in this community to us and to our neighbors. You don't give those people Cheerios and milk and say good luck. It's not a utilitarian situation. It's the meal of possibility. You see, our world is full of utilitarian solutions and advice. Try this new diet plan. Sign up for virtual exercise. Do this exercise regime. Try out this new summer camp. Take these classes in school. Download this app. You'll save $1 million. Buy this new boat, car, house, dog, cat, plant, mixer, oven. And the way to encourage you to make those decisions is to induce a sense of guilt about how bad you are at life right now. Don't you feel terrible about how bad you are at managing your time, about getting in your 10,000 steps every day? Isn't it awful that you don't know a foreign language or that you don't capture all the precious memories of your children? It's everywhere. And sadly, the church seems to mirror that culture a lot more than we offer an alternative. We've got all of our thou shalt nots. Can you increase your pledge? Bring in the school supplies. Sign up to serve a meal. Give your heart to Christ. Improve your life. Love others. Love yourself. And even when that's really good advice, when you're in the realities of day-to-day life, it's just more words and expectations pouring over you. Maybe instead what people need is breakfast. To be cared for, held, fed, and freed. Maybe the church isn't called to be the solution to people's problems, but the community where problem people can come to find nourishment. Maybe even possibility. A possibility that no human word or advice could ever create. I've only ever eaten fish cooked over a charcoal fire when I went with a group from our church to L'Au Haiti. When we were on that trip, there were lots of words exchanged and translated. Words from teachers, principals, students, words of encouragement, words of complaint. There were words that told stories of despair, words that told stories of a nation that is trapped in devastating circumstances. Words that kept communicating to me, there's no strategy, there's no plan, there is no structure for the lives of these people to improve by our standards in this village, really, or the nation as a whole to have some kind of stability. But every day, women would start up a charcoal fire in the morning, and they would cook fish on it, and they would serve us, and we would eat together. And in the serving and in the chewing and the swallowing, when there were no more words to be exchanged, we had to cling to something else. Hope. Hope that cannot come from human words, but hope in a God who empowers a life beyond what we could ever imagine possible. We are called to attend to and bear witness to that hope. Fish over a charcoal fire. Come and have breakfast. It is the meal of possibility.